All right, welcome to the Dsari Project Fall 2025 Partial Home Energy Audit. This is Manuel Schultz, and this is my partial home energy audit. Alrighty, kicking us off with a background. I live with three other roommates in a roughly 1,300 square foot apartment. Our average kilowatt hours per month from August to September is 1,162, which comes out to about $38 per tenant. And here's my energy bill. None of this really matters except for the consumption of electricity. This was for 2 weeks, so multiply that by 2 to get your figure, 1162. Alrighty, and here's average electricity use from some sources I've gathered. I've included reference links on the last slide, but about on average is on the right-hand column here for kilowatt hours per month, and then average watt used I included as well. So let's dive right in. Did I use less or more than average? Let's see. Finally, the audit process. So data was gathered over 2 weeks. I kept a paper log by each device, and I asked my roommates to be on top of that, and I hit them if they weren't. So here's that log that I've turned into a digital form, nice and clean. As you can see here, a lot of these have the same number per day. Those are because we have some habits that are just pretty consistent. For example, I work Monday through Thursday, 5 hours a day on my laptop, so that was nice and easy. We make exactly 2 pots of coffee per day, and my room air purifier is running 24/7, as well as iPhone charging. Alrighty, here are the kilowatt measurement pictures. So I've got this slide, I've got myself as proof there because the consistent background of this ugly apartment is the same across each picture. I've also got captions. Feel free to pause if you want to dig more on those. But with all this data, I've compiled it. I've put it into tables, specifically the template provided by the professor, and that is right here. So I've got three different categories, cyclic variable devices, and then other types of variable devices, and then constant. And for the biggest in each category, I was surprised to see the air purifier actually took up the most electricity, but at the same time, it is running 24/7, so I can see how that happened. And then second, in the variable devices, the biggest was the toaster oven in the kitchen. That took about 30 kilowatts per month, kilowatt hours per month. And it says average hours per day on is 24, but it's actually 45 minutes. I just had to put it at that because it's always plugged in and using different amounts of energy depending on what level of toaster is being used. And then finally, cyclic measurements. The coffee maker came in at a meager 3.5 kilowatt hours per month for 2 cycles a day. So overall, not too energy consuming. But again, feel free to pause if you want a more in-depth breakdown of that. But how do we come to these numbers? Well, it varies by category. So for constant, the kilowatt hours per day is calculated using watts on, watts off, hours off, divided by 1,000. And then per month, you just multiply that by 30. And so I've got two examples here. These are two different constants because they have constant measurements when they're either off or on. Lamp, I did not use a light bulb because my lamp specifically has two different light bulbs in it, and it's either both always on or both always off. Came out to about 1 kilowatt hour per month. Air purifier being the most out of anything at 32.4. And then variable devices were calculated using over a 24-hour span of kilowatt hours total during that span, divided by hours plugged in, 24 hours on, also 24 because I had to make the numbers work. So for example, toaster oven, again, we're not using it 24 hours straight, but to get that average of 1 kilowatt hour per day, which is, oops, how much we used per day at a 45-minute use, being plugged in 24 hours, it came out to about 30 kilowatt hours per month average. And then for cycles, a similar thing, except categorized it per cycle times day. So what did I take out of all this? Well, across all appliances, the average electricity use was 12.5 kilowatt hours per month. Here's a order from top down of how they stacked up, the air purifier again being the highest. Total electricity used was 1,162 kilowatt hours per month, but I only measured about 100.48. So as a percent of the total, it was less than 9%. So that leads me to think potentially what could be using the most electricity, and there are probably things I could not measure since I could not find where they're plugged in, such as the dishwasher, oven, fridge, laundry machines, I'm sure use a lot. But of what I did measure, only one thing was above the average that I found online, and that would be the TV setup. So I'm proud to say in the other items, I was more environmentally conservative. But where I can make some reductions, I can ditch the mini fridge, consolidate to one fridge, and I can save about 11.3 kilowatt hours or 1% of electricity since we don't even use the mini fridge that much. But if I had to guess, I would say some real reductions could be made based on using the dishwasher less and using the dryer and washer less. However, I couldn't measure those, so I can't say for sure. Anyway, thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and here are some references.